a match, a mint, a cup of coffee, and a newspaper. The first time it was an accident. That is, an accident for me. I hadn't planned to go there. I'd been driving for 7 hours, and tired of the road, decided to stop for the night before going on to San Francisco. The hotel was located in a redwood grove overlooking the Pacific Ocean. By the time I walked into the lobby, the sun was setting and the grove had turned dark as pitch. Instantly, something told me that I was in a special place. The lobby was warmly lighted. Redwood paneling reflected the red glow of the light onto beige, overstuffed couches that hugged the 3 walls surrounding the reception desk. At the far side of the table, against the far wall, in a massive fieldstone fireplace, a roaring fire filled the room with the cheerful crackling of its furiously burning oak logs. If I hadn't been so tired, the contrast between the heat of the flames on my face and the cold of the night at my back would have been enough to attract me to the room. As it was, I practically melted with delight. Behind the reception desk, a woman appeared dressed in a freshly starched red, green, and white gingham blouse and a deep red ochre skirt. A pin with the logo of the hotel atop a red ochre ribbon decorated her blouse like a badge of honor. A matching ribbon held her hair back from a glowing face. "Welcome to Venetia," she smiled warmly. It took me no more than 3 minutes from the moment she spoke that greeting to the time the bellboy ushered me into my room, despite the fact that I had no reservation. I couldn't believe the ease with which it all happened. And the room. The overall impression was one of understated opulence. Thick, muted pastel wall-to-wall carpeting, a 4-poster king-size white pine bed covered by a magnificent, impeccably clean white-on-white quilt, original graphics depicting scenes and birds of the Pacific Northwest gracing the rough-hewn elegance of the natural cedar walls, a stone fireplace with oak logs already prepared and waiting on the grate for the fire someone knew I would appreciate, paper rolled ceremoniously beneath the grate, and an elegant, oversized match lying diagonally across the hearth, waiting to be struck. Delighted with my good fortune, I changed for dinner. The woman at the desk had made my reservation when she checked me in. I walked out into the night to find the restaurant. A sign by a path outside my room pointed me down another well-lit path through the dark redwood grove. The night air was still and clear. In the distance, I could hear the hushed, rhythmic patter of the Pacific Ocean surf. Or was it my imagination? It scarcely mattered. An aura of magic surrounded the place. The restaurant stood in a knoll overlooking the hotel and the ocean. Until I went inside, I hadn't seen another person, but the restaurant was crowded. I gave the maitre d' my name, and he immediately showed me to a table, despite the fact that other people were waiting. Evidently, reservations meant something in this restaurant. The meal was as delightful as everything I had experienced before it. The food attractively prepared, the service attentive yet unobtrusive. I lingered over a glass of brandy while enjoying a classical guitarist who played a selection of Bach fugues for the dinner guests. I signed the check and returned to my room, noting on the way that the lights had been turned up on the path, apparently to compensate for the growing darkness. By the time I arrived at my room, the night had become chilly. I was looking forward to a fire and possibly another brandy before going to bed. Somebody had beaten me to it. A brisk fire was already burning in the fireplace. The quilt was turned down on the bed. The pillows were plumped up, a mint resting on each one. On one of the night tables beside the bed stood a glass of brandy and a card. I picked up the card and read, "Welcome to your first stay at Venetia. I hope it has been enjoyable. If there is anything I can do for you, day or night, please don't hesitate to call. Kathy." As I drifted to sleep that evening, I felt very well taken care of. The following morning, I awoke to a strange bubbling sound in the bathroom. I arose to investigate. A pot of coffee, turned on by an automatic timer, was merrily perking away on the sink counter. A card resting against the pot said, "Your brand of coffee. Enjoy. K." And it was my brand of coffee. How in the world could they have known that? And then I remembered, at the restaurant the night before, they had asked me what brand of coffee I preferred. And here it was. Just as I caught on to what they had done, there was a polite knock at the door. I went to the door and opened it. Nobody. But there on the mat was a newspaper. My newspaper. The New York Times. How in the world did they know that? And then I remembered. When I checked in the night before, the receptionist had asked me what newspaper I preferred. I hadn't given it another thought. Until now. And there it was. And exactly the same scenario has occurred each and every time I've returned. But after that first time, I was never asked my preferences again. I'd become part of the hotel's management system, and never once has it let me down. The system knows what I like and makes certain that I get it in exactly the same way, at exactly the same time. What exactly had the system provided? A match, a mint, a cup of coffee, and a newspaper. But it wasn't the match, the mint, the cup of coffee, or the newspaper that did it. It was that somebody had heard me. And they heard me every single time. The moment I walked into the room and felt the fire, I knew that someone had thought about me, had thought about what I wanted. I hadn't said a word, and yet they had heard me. The moment I saw the mints on the pillows, the turned-down quilt, and the brandy on the table, I knew that someone had thought about me, had thought about what I wanted. I hadn't said a word, and yet they had heard me. The moment I heard the coffee pot perking in the bathroom and saw the card that identified it as my brand, I remembered that someone had asked for my preference, and they had heard my answer. The instant I saw the newspaper and recognized it as my newspaper, I remembered that someone had asked, and they had heard my answer, and it was totally automatic. Every single element was an orchestrated solution designed to produce a marketing result, an integrated component of the hotel's management system. A match, a mint, a cup of coffee, and a newspaper.